I lead a very busy life, so when my wife suggested that I take time to decompress, I knew exactly what I needed to do. I unearthed my long exposure kit and headed down to 50 Point Beach to catch a long exposure of the waves during sunrise. Long exposures used to be my bread and butter, but as I explored my photographic style, I found myself wanting a more natural look, and my filter set went into storage. But there really is something satisfying about the process of capturing a long exposure, the calm, smooth image you get as a result, and the skill, attention to detail, and the patience required to capture it. Please enjoy today's video.
Well, I'm just trying out a few lenses. Had my 70 to 200 on the camera originally, and I think that's just going to be too narrow. So I brought a 55 millimeter just for this particular case. I'm going to swap that out. Well, the colors on the back of my camera look absolutely spectacular, but I've still got 15-20 minutes until I see a sunrise. I think actually the sun is right behind a large piece of cloud, and I need to get out all the equipment that I want for my long exposure, talk through how I'm going to set that up. So in here I've got a number of different filters. I've got a circular polarizer, I've got graduated filters, I've got the livi big stopper and another type of neutral density filter. Today I'm looking for maybe a 5 to 10 second exposure. The water is really quite calm, but I think I can actually smooth it out a little bit more. And one of the things that long exposure does is it allows the light to move around the scene. And as that happens, and as the shutter is open, it brings different types of contrast and different types of light to any of the subjects that you're looking at. So I'm going to set this up right now and I'll talk you through what I'm doing. So normally for any filter system, the first thing that goes on is a step-up ring. I have got a couple of adapters here that'll adapt the 49 millimeter filter thread for this particular lens up to the, 82 millimeters that the filter holder is going to take. That screws right in. And then the next piece of equipment is a filter holder. These come in all different sizes and shapes really, but basically what they do is they adapt that one filter ring at the front of your lens to a square filter that you're going to put on this filter holder that does the work here. Today what I'm seeing is that I've got quite a lot of combination between light and dark, and I don't have any subjects that are breaking through the horizon. And so what that means is that I can use either a ND reverse grad or a graduated filter that's going to darken down the sky and allow for me to properly expose everything else in the scene. These types of filters always end up being very dirty when you put them away, regardless of how you do that. And so I find what you want to do is give them a wipe, maybe get out your blower and make sure that they are clean before you use them on your camera. The first filter that I'm going to be adding to this is a 0.9 neutral density filter. All this does is darken down the scene. As you can see, it lets through a little bit of light, but not a lot, and it sort of acts like sunglasses for your lens. I'm going to test this first and just put this in front of the camera so that you can see I'm on aperture priority now. So at f8 ISO 100, I've got an exposure of 1/10 of a second. As I bring this in front, you can see it actually goes to 0.8 seconds. That will do for our purposes because the ND graduated filter is going to bring this down even further. The second filter that I'm going to be using is called a hard edge graduated filter. And what this has is it's got the neutral density part as well as a clear part. So again, sunglasses for your lens, but only at the top. And what this allows you to do is bring down the exposure of a particular part of your lens so that this hard edge can create a separation right where the horizon is. And normally what you do with an ND grad is start at the top, connect it into your filter, and then slowly bring it down until your exposure changes. And you begin to see a change in both your shutter speed and also the darkness of the frame. And finally, I'll lock these in place so that they don't move when I end up doing my long exposure. I'm going to take a moment and make sure that everything on my tripod, everything on my camera is super stable. With a long exposure, you open yourself up to a little bit of camera shake if there's wind or if you're touching the tripod or the camera for any reason, and you really don't want that. As the shutter is going to be open on your camera for a very long time, shaking it will bring in unwanted light from any side, and that will cause your image to be blurry even though it's in focus. All right, 7 minutes till sunrise. Let me set my composition up just perfectly here. What I'm looking for is that the light that's glowing beautiful red from the sun is going to be the main concept here behind this image, and I'll have all of these different pieces of wood, part of this old pier in the scene in order to add some visual interest, definitely, but also to point up towards that color. An important piece for any long exposure is that you make sure that you've got as long of a timer on your shutter as you can possibly have, because what you want to do is press your shutter, wait a few seconds for everything to settle, and have the camera be perfectly still so that as you take this image, nothing is moving. In this case, I'm going to focus on this one element here, and I'll go ahead and take my first test shot. So you can see that the water has smoothed out a little bit, and it's bringing in the reflection of the light in the sky. I think I'm going to want that more. And right now, the two tools that I have is to lower my ISO from 100 to 50, or to shrink my aperture up to maybe f11, possibly f13. I think it's probably time for me to switch over to an even denser neutral density filter to lower that light coming in the camera even more. I've got to work quickly. So I'm going to swap my 0.9 ND grad out for a 10 stop filter. This is quite a lot darker, and usually you can't even see through it, but it does let light through, only a little bit. So one of the things that I'm going to do is lock down my focus before I change over to this filter. This filter is very dark, and usually it'll actually block the autofocus sensor in your camera. So you need to pick your focus point, get your camera in focus, and then bring in the filter. With this filter, I don't think I'm going to need this ND grad anymore. I will be able to capture just enough light, and the sky is not particularly bright behind where I'm shooting, so I can dump this filter for now. Oh, I can see now the sun is just lighting up the tips of these clouds right at the top of this sort of cloud barrier. I'm going to do another exposure. I think this one's 10, maybe 15 seconds, because now the light has brightened up this entire scene and everything is beginning to glow. More light means the shutter doesn't need to be open for as long, meaning that I can get a little bit different of an image. Well, I really like this image. 20 seconds, f8, ISO 100. I've got an orange glow right in the middle of the image, banding across the horizon, with the water reflecting a little bit of that orange color, and my strong subjects with dark, deep contrast below that, leading the viewer's eye right up in the frame and adding context to this scene and adding a large amount of visual interest to the frame. Oh yeah, that is just perfection. So as the sun begins to rise, let me tell you about what I've done here. I have created a scene that has a lot of negative space, not empty space, but negative space. And that space holds a very calm lake and the water reflecting the beautiful orange glow of a sunrise along the horizon. But within that negative space are these strong elements. In this case, it's pieces of wood that were used to build an old pier along this beach, and they have slowly eroded away. And with that, they have left only the tips of different pieces of wood in the water. They are incredibly strong subjects and create quite a lot of contrast. Thank you very much for watching. Bye for now.